And welcome to another installment of Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer.
Still going.
Yeah, Dan Hanzus, the Zeuser there, posts it every single Tuesday at NFL.com/Power Rankings. We'll throw the QR code up there for you to snap a shot of. It'll take you right there. You can use it as a, consider as a companion piece to what we're about to do over the next hour. And Dan, I'm going to take off my glasses because I feel like I'm in a mood for a feud. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of put it out there. Today, I feel like it's going to be a feud between the two of us, between our guests and you, because, man, and there's that QR code for you to scan so you can read the full article. And I would assume when we get to constructive criticism at the back end of this, you're going to get a lot of incoming today, Zeuser, because you put yourself out there.
Bring me your anger. It won't change anything.
Well, it will change everything. It'll change the way I feel about myself and the football-consuming population that are so disappointed in you today. And we start right there at the top. For no reason whatsoever, you have moved the current reigning Super Bowl champs down a spot from 1 to 2, even though their kicker kicked not one, but two 58-yarders and a 53-yarder, considering timeouts and false starts, to win a game in overtime and keep them undefeated. Explain yourself. Why are the Ravens at 1?
It's so funny that you bring up Harrison Butker, who's an excellent kicker, but he's number 2 on the kicker power rankings, right behind, wait for it, Justin Tucker of the Ravens. But that's not why I did this. Listen, all due respect to the Chiefs. I did have a rule in my first year of the power rankings that the number 1 team, the defending champion, stays there till they lose. But that's stupid. Why come up with arbitrary rules and just stick with them for no reason? When I watch the games and I see that the Ravens are playing better than any team in football, complete football, the defense has been incredible. Marcus Peters made Will Fuller disappear on Sunday. Lamar Jackson has gotten better as a thrower of the football in year 3. The running game sprung to life with over 200 yards. They are excelling in all phases of the game and killing everybody. The Chiefs, kudos to the Chiefs. They're 2-0. They're in great position too, but they haven't been as impressive. They're not the best team in the league right now.
Here is why I will disagree. One, if you look historically, and granted, there is recency bias there and participation bias, if you will. I just called the game against them with the Chargers and have called all their games against the Chargers, and nobody defends Patrick Mahomes better than Gus Bradley. He gives him fits. Mahomes struggles to find a rhythm against the Chargers. It has happened. Now, that said, he's still 5-1, now 6-1 against that Chargers team, but last week, it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? The Texans decided they were going to drop 2 safeties, keep everything in front of them, and what happened? 5 men in the box repeatedly, and Edwards-Helaire eats and is one of the most productive backs in week 1. Chargers take that away, and pretty much they take everything away from Pat Mahomes through about 2.5 quarters. But he is so special. He is so spectacular that only one explosive play was needed for him to get a victory. And it was an insane pass on a 2-point conversion that only he can make. And I think that's why I can't pull the Chiefs out of the number 1 spot, because he is such a special player, the Super Bowl MVP, that you just know something like this was eventually going to happen. A perfect pass into double coverage, and good coverage, by the way, by Chris Harris and Nasir Adderley. Only one guy in the league makes that throw, maybe 2 in Russell Wilson. On a 3rd and 20, you're watching it right here. He manages to diagnose the defense and run for 21 yards to keep a drive alive, to kick the game-tying field goal. And I think that's the separation. The fact that it was not a good game for Mahomes, it was not a good game for the Chiefs. They let a rookie quarterback eat them up on offense, time-consuming drives, north of 36 minutes in time of possession. And Mahomes is just that special. Yeah, but it's like, that's great. You did all that, but guess what? We're still going to win.
You're making my point for me here, that they did not have a great week 2. Week 1 was fine, that opener, which the Texans were a lamb being led to slaughter in the first game of the season. So I don't ever put a ton into that game. But the Ravens, to me right now, are a team that you can't take anything away, that they're just going to get you no matter what. And until I see them look human, like the Titans made them look last January, I'm riding with them as number 1.
Well, the good news is this time next week, one of us is going to be sitting up a little bit taller. Our chest is going to be a little bit more barrely, and we're going to be feeling pretty good about the position we have managed to stake our claim to. Let's move to number 4 from the number 1 versus number 2, and which team deserves to be at the top. Number 4, Steelers, which I think most would. I don't know if it'd be unanimous, but it probably ought to be that this is the best defense in football.
No, they're awesome. They're just so punishing. They're great at every level, and they knocked Drew Lock out of the game with that pass rush. Jeff Driscoll does a few things, but ultimately when the rubber met the road, the Steelers took care of business. And on the other side of the ball, we talked about this last week, the fact that Big Ben, I don't think he's getting enough credit for being a 38-year-old coming off a triple shredding of his ligaments in his right elbow. And he just came back, and he's just as good as he ever was. This is another team, just like the number one team in the rankings, the Ravens, just like the Rams in the NFC, that are just like firing on all cylinders right now. And I enjoy watching them, and that's why I have them this high.
Yeah, and they certainly know how to draft wide receivers. You saw Chase Claypool, who's, like 6'10", runs a 4.3 40, and was somehow drafted in like the third or the fourth round. And they find him every year, every single year.
Weapons on top of weapons in that offense.
Yeah, so certainly at number 4, no surprise the Steelers are in the top 5. And now, finally in the top 5, the team that has, again, I think this would be close to unanimous, the best player going in the NFL right now, as everybody has managed to get behind the let Russ cook theory of offense. And boy, 5 touchdowns against the Patriots. He is cooking.
Yeah, he's so fun to watch right now. Our Around the NFL podcast, we had a former producer named TD, great dude, that used to call it a sexy deep ball from Russell Wilson. And my goodness, it's so perfect. The rainbow, the arc to it, where it falls in the receiver's hands. I just can't get enough of watching the guy right now. And he was just one of those games where, the Patriots and Bill Belichick saw it. He just wasn't going to be denied. He was just going to continue to stack up points. But the guy that really jumped out to me, even beyond Wilson, was DK Metcalf. He was given Stephon Gilmore the business, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. That guy is a star, and put him with Tyler Lockett, and that 1-2 punch is as good as any.
Yeah, and look, it's not just the running game anymore, right? And then, hey, Russ, come save us in the fourth quarter. And by the way, great defensive stand by the defense. And, it looked like there was no chance you were stopping Cam Newton on the goal line, and they managed to diagnose it perfectly. Reportedly, it was Bobby Wagner that called that out, sold out in that power run to the left, and they were able to upend him. The one thing I will quickly add, and why I disagree with you, I'd flip the 5 and the 4, because you have the Ravens ahead of the Steelers. That means they win the division. That means the Steelers are a wild card. That means they have to win 3 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl. The Seahawks are atop the NFC West. That means they would get a bye, a much easier path
we're
to
in
the
the
Super
here
Bowl.
and now money. We're not worried about January.
That's my here and now. You know what? My here and now is chess. Your here and now, it's checkers.
Don't dare say checkers. You're a monster.
Stick around to see what the Zeuser does with Dallas after the most improbable of comebacks. We'll see where the Cowboys clock in following not a Dallas win, but a Falcons collapse.
Zerline, little squib. It's got to go 10 yards, and it's close. Zerline may have come through. Who's got it? The Cowboys have it. Do you believe that? Dallas has recovered, and they're not done yet. Hold is down. Kick is up, and it is good. Somehow, some way, the Cowboys have won it.
Welcome back to Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Go ahead, scan that QR code to get to the article at NFL.com. You see rankings 9 through 16. There are the Cowboys at number 11, following the brilliant call by Kevin Burkhardt there, and the most improbable of wins. By now, you have already heard a team that scores 39 points, does not turn the ball over, was 442-0. Going into that game, the win probability was 99.9% when they had that 15-point lead in the fourth quarter. Yet Dan Hanzus has the should-be 0-2 Cowboys at the hands of the Rams and Falcons. They should have suffered defeats at the Rams. At number 11, explain yourself, Dan Hanzus.
First of all, there should be 0-2. There you go with the zero stuff, Ken. How about the miracle Cowboys? Okay, how about coming back, 1% chance of win. You get the job done, and in all seriousness, money, I get it. I get why people think, oh, let's drop them because they should have lost this game. That's really not how sports work, but I'll give you that if you want. But without Tyron Smith, without Lyle Collins, without Cam Irving, Leighton Vander Esch, all these guys out, their ability to keep fighting and come back and steal this game, and one other guy that is a sneaky big addition to the Cowboys that you probably can't lose to injury is Bones Fossil, the special teams coach. They had that onside kick planned out. They understand with these new rules that you can't fire it into the line anymore. You have to kick it slowly. That's coaching. And the Atlanta Falcons didn't have the coaching, how to handle a situation like that. The Cowboys are in good hands. And guess what? This is the type of win money that even though it's not that impressive, and there's plenty of problems on the defensive side of the ball, this is a catapult win. This is the type of game that gets a team's juices flowing, and all of a sudden you win 4 in a row. Let's see.
Well, that's projecting. I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth now, which I do I'm going to do regularly, and I do regularly. But I'll say this. Yes, you're right. I think it shows good coaching, good commitment from the players to not roll over when you're down 15 with 5 minutes to go, but to continue playing and ultimately get out with the victory. If only it hadn't come against a team that blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl and routinely blows leads, I would be a little bit more impressed. The second thing is what you just said, and that is prior to the season, when you picked the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl, and so many folks did as well, they were touting that defensive talent. And we're just not seeing that defensive line put the kind of pressure on the quarterback that we thought they were going to. That needs to be sorted out because Matt Ryan picked them apart, and he did it without Julio Jones having a big game. So that would be my big concern. Now, the other side of the mouth is they're in the NFC East. And of the 4 teams in the NFC East, I do think they're the best, which means I feel comfortable about them making the playoffs, which is why they should be somewhere inside the top 14, even with a 1-1 record, even with the most improbable of wins, because you just can't, I don't think, comfortably put the Eagles, Giants, or Redskins ahead of them, which is why I guess I'm sort of okay with 11. I would probably just put them all the way at 14. Like, yes, I acknowledge this team will be in the postseason, but man, do I want to see a heck of a lot more before I'm comfortable having them so close
and let me just
to the
say,
top 10.
For posterity's sake, I picked the Cowboys to win the division. I have the Steelers winning the Super Bowl in my preseason predictions. Okay.
There we go. Okay. I don't want to put picks in your mouth. So thank you. My apologies, corrections, and retractions. Okay. Let's move to the most sizzle of all the picks because you had the Raiders at 19 last week. They were 1-0 behind a number of 0-1 teams. And I'm doing this for you, not saying 0-1 and 1-0. But they are now 2-0. And you only have them at 15. And Raider Nation is going to be coming for you by the end of this show. Explain yourself to enhancers.
Raider Nation was going to come for me if I didn't have them in the top
at
3. I knew that was coming, so that's not a problem. That's the way this game works in the power rankings world. Yeah, great win. Great win. I do think there is a part of me, and money, I'm curious if you agree, that they're catching the Saints at the right time right now. In prime time, across the country, with Drew Brees in the offense trying to figure things out, and the defense isn't very sharp right now. I don't want to take anything away from what Derek Carr did, and I think he's really was impressive in this. Darren Waller, who kind of took on that almost Antonio Brown
can't
role
cover
in the offense. So that's why I have them moving steadily up the power rankings. But I also wonder if the Saints were actually the Saints right now. Maybe they never will be if this would have turned out this way.
Well, we'll get a little bit more into the Raiders with one of our impact matchups, our big three, a little bit later in the show. So Raider Nation, don't go anywhere. We got more coming as we celebrate your team and their 2-0 start, opening up Allegiant Stadium there with a win. But up next, the most exciting team that you are not watching. Cliff and Kyler's Cardinals are way too low for my liking. We'll see if our mystery guest agrees after having watched them wreck the Washington football team.
Going to let it fly. Moore out there. He is in. Touchdown. Newton's going to run the ball. Flipped up in the air. It's all zeros. Mark Ingram got a huge hole.
Oh, wow.
Touchdown, Ravens. Wide open is Brown. Touchdown. Awful. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. Yes, it's going to be Secretary at the Belmont. Aaron Jones. Ellison Butker. Money. It's a 3-touchdown day for Higgs. Murray steps up and takes off. Jukes the defender and scores.
Zerline, little script. It's got to go 10 yards. And
The Cowboys have it. Do you believe that?
46 yards. Yes, sir. Kiss that pig. Dallas 40, Atlanta 39.
All right, we welcome you back to Power Rankings right here. Dan Hanzus, the Zeuser, me. But you know what time it is, Zeuser?
To kiss that pig?
Spread. We like to spread the two of us apart. We get a sweet little slot-looking machine in the middle.
Hey.
You scream stop, and we bring in a mystery guest to help us analyze one of the teams in your 1 through 32. So, Power Rankings presented by Energizer. Still going is our little slot machine until you say stop, Dan Hanzus.
No whammy, stop. Oh!
Hey, it's Steve Weich. There we go.
Steve
Howard
Weich.
Bison. You see the 1989 compendium right behind him. I believe that was the start of the Steve Wilson era of Bison football. We appreciate Steve joining us. All right, guess what, Steve? You get to talk Arizona Cardinals, perhaps the most exciting team that not enough folks are watching, and celebrate the accomplishments of Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray through 2 weeks. What have you made of this 2-0 start?
Well, first off, we'll get to the rankings later. So let's talk about the 2-0 start. We're seeing a lot of highlights of Kyler Murray, as we should. 5 touchdowns, 3 rushing. Looks absolutely fantastic. DeAndre Hopkins, I believe, 22 catches. he already has made it worth the trade for the Arizona Cardinals, especially when you see the Houston Texans are winless on the flip side. But, guys, we're talking about the wrong side of the ball. It is the defense. Can you believe it is the defense for the Arizona Cardinals? Okay, they have allowed 35 points over the first 2 games. This was the weak point of this team last year. At the beginning of last season, they had suspensions. They had injuries. The secondary was easy pickings. Not the case this year with Budda Baker back there at safety really controlling the middle of the field. It is the Arizona Cardinals defense, which is allowing 17.5 points a game, as to why they are really doing things well in this 2-0 start.
Can I play devil's advocate there, Steve, that they haven't really seen a big-time offense yet? The Niners are beat up and missing guys, and Washington, I don't know. I don't know if that's a team that's ever going to score a lot of points.
That's a terrible defense, Dan. That's a terrible defense.
Hey, wait, no. Money. Please let me kick Dan between his teeth right here.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I knew he was going to go there. I knew he was going to say they haven't played anybody. But last I checked, this banged-up 49ers team just hung 31 on Dan Hanzus' Jets.
Why did the Jets keep coming up?
They came in there.
For them.
No, but you salute them. You're all over them. You're a hopeful diehard. And for you to say that they have not played a great offense, well, they just hung 31 on the Jets. Don't the Jets get paid too? Isn't Greg Williams that guy?
I don't know if that's true.
Poor excuse. Poor excuse.
What? You know what? We all look up to Steve Weiss in NFL media as like a father figure type, and when you disappoint him, it's something that sticks with you for the rest of the day.
Listen, Dan. First of all, Dan, stick up for yourself, would you? My gosh, you back down in the moment immediately. But Steve's right here. This is a playoff team, and this is a team that, look, if they are the most disrespected team in power rankings, which save the Raiders, I believe them to be, Chandler Jones is the most disrespected defensive lineman in all of the NFL. All he has is the highest sack rate per game since coming into the league at nearly 0.9 sacks per game. And yeah, he didn't get one against Dwayne Haskins and the Redskins, but my gosh, Steve, he had 4 quarterback hits. He is in the backfield regularly. And as you said, the defense is leading the way. They have it at every level. Hassan Reddick is even popping this year. He was a disappointment up until now. And when you got a head coach that's willing to go for it on 4th down and run a freaking reverse to get a first down, my goodness, that is a team we should all be championing moving forward.
You guys got to calm down.
They're absolutely fun to watch.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
what is it, 19-0 we're talking here?
But wait a second. But Dan, you have them right now sitting behind some 1-1 teams. I mean, explain to me that, sir.
Behind the Cowboys.
Said, stick up for yourself.
Because as I've said, if you want to know what the standings are, go to the standings. But the old Zeusers power rankings, I factor in many things, and you don't even get to know all the things that I factor in. I keep that under the hood.
Yeah, you're consulting with that plant behind your right shoulder.
But wait,
I got a plant for
Are you factoring in the onside kick numbskullness to heighten Dallas's stature?
Yes, I factor that in. That was among my data.
Thanks for pronouncing data.
No, honestly, I love the Cardinals. 13 is a good spot for where this team is, and they're going this way. They're trending upward, and I love everything about what I've seen from them at this point. If you would have told Cardinals fans, if they deliver another big performance in Week 3, which you two gentlemen seem to think is just absolutely going to happen, they're probably going to be in the top 10 of the power rankings, and that is a team that is on the right track and seems to be cresting right now.
Let me button this here, Steve, and I'm going to do it with you. Since Dan says you can look at the standings, which he's absolutely right. You look at the standings, you want to go 1 through 32 to figure out who should be at the top and who's at the bottom. This is a more nuanced look at which teams are the best, even though we disagree with where he has the Cardinals. Steve, I want you to give me the Steve Weich power rankings of the NFC West, 1 through 4, because this looks far and away like the best division in football.
Okay, yeah, and this is where, when you talk about divisional play, it's matchup on matchup. So this is how these teams will fare against each other. And this is where the Rams actually have to come in at number 2 behind those Seattle Seahawks. Now, we know that Seattle looks like a bad matchup for some things that the Arizona Cardinals do. But the physicality that they are playing with right now, what Russell Wilson is doing, Seahawks number 1, Rams number 2, Cardinals number 3. Cardinals still belong in the top 11, regardless of them being a third-place team in the division right now. Okay, but that just goes to show you how loaded this division is. And then you look at another team that kind of is the market correction, another division, and that would be the NFC North, which is really a hot mess right now.
I like your power rankings, Steve. I don't like yours, Dan. Listen, great podcast, brand new. You need to subscribe to it. Two of our favorite people, Jim Trotter, Steve Weich, doing Huddle and Flow, a great homage to the old Hustle and Flow of John Singleton about 10 years ago, whenever that movie came out, maybe 2014 or so. But absolutely love what we've heard so far. Newest episode, Doug Williams. So go ahead, check that out on Apple or Spotify. Again, Huddle and Flow with Steve Weich. Steve, we appreciate it. Thanks. All right, so here you go. Look at number 17 through 24. See the 3 green arrows at the top. A lot of red there behind it. So let's focus on a couple of the squads. And again, a big thank you to Steve Weich there, helping us make sense of all the mistakes made when it came to putting the Arizona Cardinals at 13. But Dan, let's go Eagles here to start, because a lot of folks had the Eagles. It was probably maybe 60-40 split for the NFC East over Cowboys versus Eagles, who was going to come out ahead in that division. There are a handful of folks that had the Eagles as their Super Bowl pick, and here they sit at 0-2. What have you made of their first 2 weeks? I
really thought week 2 was going to be a bounce-back week for the whole team, Carson Wentz included, but it was more of the same. And, Wentz needs to clean up his decision-making. He was part of the problem here. But there's a larger issue with this team where it's just come out flat. And, the NFC East seems like it's wide open. And the Cowboys, even if I have them at 11, I understand people that think that's a team that could end up being around a 500 team. So the Eagles have time to clean this up, but you get sacked 8 times by Washington in week 1. You cannot move the ball consistently against the Rams in week 2 or get stops. Doug Peterson has a lot of work to do here.
Yeah, and I think, there's a couple things. One, I'll start with a positive, which is the return of Miles Sanders, and he looked great. And he is a feature back, and you got north of 120 yards and a touchdown, and that was effective. So that's a positive where you can start, especially with the struggles on that offensive line where you don't want Carson Wentz taking too many shots. Our dear friend, and I know a dear friend of the Around the NFL podcast, Move the Sticks, Daniel Jeremiah, pointed out the footwork from Carson Wentz. And I don't know what it is or why it is, but someone who was so exceptional, who was exceptional last season, with a cast of wideouts that did not belong on a football field, belonged maybe on a practice squad or someone you were thinking about signing, and Wentz was able to make magic with them to the tune of a division crown. But this year it's not there. Those 2 interceptions we just showed, you could see how wide his base was and just how uncomfortable those throws look. So he's got a lot to clean up. Defensively, like you said, the Rams were able to do anything and everything, and Jim Schwartz essentially took responsibility for that, saying they got to get that cleaned up this week. They still have the talent. I have no doubt they still have the talent, and I do think it'll be a tight race between them and the Cowboys as we move forward.
Okay. Can I borrow your invisible host Bolo cap for a second?
Sure.
To tee you up on a team, the Los Angeles Chargers. You are the voice of the Chargers, and we had fun on the Sunday night edition of the Around the NFL podcast playing you and Move the Sticks, your color analyst, reacting to Justin Herbert showing up out of nowhere as the starter. What are your takeaways on the Chargers, and are you okay where they are at number 18 on the power rankings?
I'd probably move them up a little bit, just because that defense, we didn't know what it was going to look like without Derwin James, but it's, I think, been everything as advertised. A lot of people said, how could that offense only score 16 points against the Bengals? But I think you look at what the Bengals were able to do to a pretty good Browns defense, and you say, well, that defense held them to 13 points. And they have always given Patrick Mahomes fits. Gus Bradley has, but you've got the pass rush. And you know what's different this year is, you now have a legitimate rotation of defensive linemen. Jerry Tillery has taken a step as his first round. He was a first-round pick last year, wildly disappointed. This year, he has been super effective, blocked an extra point, had a near sack, quarterback hit that led to an incompletion. Joey Bosa got his first sack ever of Patrick Mahomes. The secondary's been all that you would have thought it would have been, with the addition of Chris Harris Jr. to Casey Hayward. Nasir Adderley's been great at that free safety role. So I think the defense is good enough, and I think they're going to go with Herbert moving forward. I just think you saw a lot more juice in that offense, especially from Austin Eckler. The defense respected the deep ball. That opened things up for the running game. So I think this is a team that you could put in the top 14 and feel good about it because of how good it looks like a top 5 defense.
Well,
so
you called that. After Derwin James went down right on the eve of the regular season, a lot of people just wrote off the Chargers defense. You had said that they still have a lot of pieces and will be very good. Well, they have been. Tyrod Taylor had one 300-yard game his entire career, and Herbert did it in 4 quarters on 10 minutes notice.
Yeah, against the Super Bowl champion defense. Exactly. So I feel pretty good. And granted, I got a little bit of a bias, but I feel pretty good about the Chargers.
I get it.
Moving forward, take on the Panthers. Maybe Dan will get into the top 14. But just ahead, we critique the cratering clubs from the big town, navigate to New York for a self-loathing session from one of us. Go ahead, guess who that is. Thanks to a 16-game season rendered moot after a couple weeks.
Rotten apples, I like that.
Back here on Power Rankings presented by Energizer, a reminder today is National Voter Registration Day. The NFL, NFLPA, and Players Coalition have launched NFL Votes to empower and improve our communities through exercising the right to vote. Join the NFL family by registering to vote today and make your voice heard this November. Visit NFL.com/votes to learn more. Well, there it is, the bottom, 25 through 32. We're going to get to that number 25 team in a minute. But Dan, you're from New York, the big town. You still have a ton of family there. So why don't you, and the folks can scan your QR code to read the article at NFL.com, by the way. Go ahead and do that on your phone. Have a good time with that. But why don't you take us through the New York state of mind and their 2 football teams following 2 contests?
It's so sad. And the one thing going for the Giants and the Jets this season is that fans aren't allowed in MetLife Stadium because it would get that place would be lousy with booze, put it that way. Yeah, the Giants will start there. It's a bummer because if you're a Giants fan, you entered this season knowing that you didn't have a lot of pieces on defense, but the offense in place had a chance to really be exciting. And the Saquon Barkley injury, I've said it before, I think he's the most special running back to come into the league since Adrian Peterson. He is just an incredible athlete and a guy that's proven that he's a superstar. To lose him to an ACL tear of all things in week 2 is just cruel, and it really takes away that sense of hope that the Giants can be this team that could win some shootouts and hang in the race. And on the Jets side of things, it's a disaster.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick, Dan, just on the Giants, quickly to get in there. I think the one thing that also happens is it's harder to evaluate Daniel Jones. If you're going to end up with one of the worst records in the league, I think it's important to evaluate whether or not he is the guy. I think he is, but it's going to be much tougher to evaluate him. Not the Jets, different story.
Yeah, the Jets have, well, I think it's very hard to evaluate Sam Darnold as well. And I think people that are losing patience hearing that and makes it sound like it's an excuse that the organization is making or Jets fans are making. Watch that game against the 49ers and see what Darnold had with him, where Chris Hogan, by the end of the game, Chris Hogan taken off the street in late August, was his only reliable wide receiver. The 49ers, all the injuries they had, it didn't matter. The Jets were so outclassed. Greg Williams, who had a really nice year as their DC last season, he wears out his welcome quickly, and that team did not. They gave him a 55-yard run on 3rd and 31 at one point, money, to a backup running back. It's as dark as I can ever remember, and I'm including the Kotite era in the mid-'90s.
The old Richie Kotite era. I'll just quickly say, what are you doing having Frank Gore carry the ball 21 times? Like, what is that telling you about your football team? We love Frank Gore, but come on, figure something else out. Look at one of the young guys. Exactly. Bring P. Ryan or somebody. Let him run and see if you got a future there, because, man, that's just does not make a whole lot of sense.
Bill Parcells.
What a great time to be a fan of a New York football team.
Yeah, Bill Parcells called Frank Gore type a progress stopper. You got to let the young guys do it. Give them a chance.
Yeah, at least there's that. And it's time now for Power Moves, presented by Energizer. She is the curator of coefficients, dominates with differential equations. It is the premier predictive analytics authority in the arena. Cynthia Freeland, back on Power Rankings to use math. And Cynthia, unfortunately, we bring you in to examine the rash of injuries that plagued the NFL in Week 2. And we start with the defending NFC champs, the San Francisco 49ers.
Well, I mean, it's almost easier to list who's not injured than to list who is injured on this one, because the list is so long and at such key positions, from quarterback to Nick Bosa to Solomon Thomas to Richard Sherman and George Kittle. Like, the entire team is a really big situation of not playing. So the interesting part for me was that when I ran the numbers in upcoming games, especially this week's matchup with the Giants, it was actually Nick Bosa had a bigger win share decrease than Saquon Barkley. So that's an interesting kind of, I don't know, sad note maybe on that one. But I totally agree with them now being down 5. Number 14 seems about right, because hopefully they'll get many of these players back.
Especially painful, too, that Nick Bosa is literally being carted to the locker room at MetLife Stadium when Solomon Thomas goes down to the turf. And then they have the exact same injury, a torn left ACL. You can't make that up.
Fix your turf,
can't make that up.
MetLife. Fix your turf.
They got other problems to deal with over there.
Yeah, it turns out they do. We're going to get to those in a couple segments, as a matter of fact. Cynthia, let's get to the Colts, because certainly a team that needed to rebound this week did. But unfortunately, I believe the term is a Pyrrhic victory, considering the losses that they sustained.
Nice.
Well, they kind of got lucky in terms of, if you can look at it in a positive way, the injuries that they have didn't matter in the game script because Kirk Cousins threw so many interceptions. So losing a wide receiver, obviously Paris Campbell's a big loss. He was poised to have a breakout season. And then, of course, you look on the other side, and Malik Hooker at that safety position. Those are two positions where, you really get a chance to take a team that's trying to pass against you and shut them down and keep in the game with the wide receiver. So in this game, in this matchup with the Vikings, it didn't really, I want to say it didn't really matter, but it played in their favor. They had, 38 minutes of possession, and they could run the ball efficiently. Jonathan Taylor got that first 100 yards of his career in that start. So realistically, for me, I completely agree, especially because their matchup this week, it's one that I know Dan's looking forward to very greatly. So up 2 spots seems to make a lot of sense.
Just end the season, Cynthia. That's what I said.
I see what you did there. That's the acronym. Just end the season. Again, just wait, Dan. We got 2 segments, and we'll get to it. Or maybe even in the very next segment, we'll get to it. We got one more team, even though we shouldn't. The name should not even be mentioned here. They should be the unmentionables, as a matter of fact, as far as power rankings is concerned, because we're ranking the power players in the NFL, and they don't belong in it. All right, now I've talked about the Jets. One more team to get to, Cynthia, the Denver Broncos, who lose a quarterback here for a little bit of time.
Yeah, so they just signed Blake Bortles, which gives you some indication about how they feel about Jeff Driscoll and their future with a backup situation and then the third situation, and then maybe the amount of time that we can expect Drew Lock to be gone or maybe be not 100%. We got some clues there. So down 2 against the Bucs seems to make a lot of sense, especially when you think about the fact that the Bucs are really good at stopping the run, which has really helped the Broncos and was really helpful to Jeff Driscoll in that last matchup against the Steelers. And obviously the breakout season of Noah Fant is a nice positive note here, but that's kind of downgraded when you consider Cortland Sutton is now there. So the passing opportunity overall is going to be lessened.
Can you imagine being around John Elway this week? I mean, I'm sure he's had a fantastic career and he's got a great life. So the house itself is probably big, so it's easy to keep your distance. But still, you got to steer clear of John because he thought he had built a team this year that could make a run. And it feels like everything got thrown out the window by week 2. Football is not fair sometimes.
No, I mean, look, I think a lot of us felt that way, right? The idea of a healthy Bradley Chubb with Von Miller goes down. You know, that Drew Lock, at least, you know, while it wasn't super promising, I think it was exciting what you saw the last 4 weeks of last year with an elite receiver, Cortland Sutton ready to take the jump. And as you said, Cynthia, now he's gone for the year. I do like Jeff Driscoll, though. I thought he showed a lot against arguably the best defense in the NFL against Pittsburgh. So going to be anxious to see whether or not, you know, there is a chance to rescue what is a sad situation, as you described it, Cynthia and Dan, in Denver. You want more? Go ahead and check out NFL.com/Freeland. She breaks it all down, and she does it brilliantly. We're lucky to have her every single week here. Thank you, Cynthia. And just ahead, we got the top 3, the Week 3 tilts on tap, which showdowns have us salivating about a serious surge or slip this time next week. That's right, the Chiefs and Ravens are taking Monday Night Football on. Will they be in our top 3? We'll do it next. It's an all-Florida matchup on Thursday Night Football this week. The Dolphins head north to take on the Jaguars. Coverage starts at 6 p.m. Eastern, followed by kickoff at 8 p.m. All of it exclusively on NFL Network. We're going to get to those Jags here in just a minute, but with the Zeuser back, power rankings presented by Energizer still going. It's impact matchups. I picked 3 contests. You weigh in, Dan, on what I think will perhaps have the greatest impact on your rankings for the upcoming week. So yes, the best game of the week is 1 versus 2, Chiefs versus Ravens, but the only thing that could do is swap those 2 teams from number 2 to number 1. If the Chiefs get to move back up with a victory, they'll stay at 2 likely if they lose. So let's focus on the Rams' consecutive weeks, right? Have to go all the way back to the Eastern time zone, play that early 10 a.m. Pacific kickoff against the Bills. This is looking a lot like 2018 Jared Goff. Move the pocket, passer rating north of 100, complete a bunch of passes to a bunch of different receivers. Sean McVay looks like an offensive genius, and that's what we've seen through 2 weeks. You have, doesn't matter who the back is, whether it's Brown or Henderson or Akers, they're all eaten to the tune of north of 5 yards per carry. And Jared Goff, who throws a beautiful ball, looks comfortable again. Meanwhile, the Bills Josh Allen, he leads the league in passing, and that was the one question we had. Stephon Diggs looks to be worth every last bit of that first-round pick. We know the defense is going to be solid, and Diggs looks to have added something very special to what Josh Allen had been searching for as the Bills try to figure out if, in fact, he is that franchise quarterback moving forward.
Josh Allen is cracking me up right now because his numbers are out of this world through 2 weeks. But if you're watching the games, he's still doing those things that make the doubters doubt him. It's just that the numbers are making the case stronger for people that love him.
Yeah. My favorite number, he's got 10 total touchdowns. He didn't get his 10th total touchdown until week 7 last year, to put it in perspective how much more dominant that offense is. All right, quickly, Cowboys Seahawks. And not quickly, but obviously this is my position versus your position. I believe the Cowboys have no business at number 11. I believe that Russell Wilson is playing the best football in the NFL right now. So my suspicion is after they're humiliated by the Seahawks, they will finally take up residence in the low-rent district where they belong, the 20s now. I'm willing to admit I'm wrong. Dak was great, over 400 yards, ran the heck out of the ball in the game as well. And if he is able to vanquish the Seahawks, who have shown they have a little bit of defensive issues, particularly against the pass, then by all means, Dan, you take your number 11 and your beloved Cowboys, and I will celebrate your rankings and the prophetic nature of them.
Now, this is a good one because I'm going to have a lot of egg on my face if they go up to Seattle and Russ throws 5 more touchdowns and the Cowboys are a mess. And these are the Cowboys. They have a way of letting people down, so that could certainly happen. But I'm going to stick with it. The juice that you get from a win like 40-39 is going to carry them to a competitive game.
Third and final, Raiders, Patriots. What a great game, especially coming off a victory against the Saints. It was a weird one for the Raiders against the Saints. You got over 100 penalty yards on that defense that had been so dominant against the Bucs. You have a Drew Brees whose arm looked like it had no business being taking snaps from behind center on an NFL team. So try to figure out what it is going forward against a Patriots defense that wasn't able to contain Russell Wilson. But I think whoever comes out of this, either the Patriots move into your top 10 or higher in your top 10, or the Raiders finally get into your top 10 with a win.
Can't wait to see how the Raiders follow up Monday night. The Patriots, they're going to be hanging around all year. People that wanted them to be done, like me, Cam Newton's there, and he looks like the old Cam Newton.
Yeah. See, I don't need to say a whole lot on the Raiders because folks like Greg Riccardi are going to. Good thing Raiders didn't lose. You would have put them behind the Jets. That's just a taste, by the way, of what's to come in the very next segment.
Greg.
Meanwhile, Dan, let's get to honest assessments. Just kind of a quick look at a couple of the teams that we have not mentioned thus far. Titans, without Derrick Henry being dominant, do it behind Ryan Tannehill, who looked exceptional in that victory over the Jaguars.
Yeah, as a person who roots for a team that always has bad coaching, good coaching makes a difference, especially in close games. So being able to take these games with Derrick Henry not at his best, Ryan Tannehill looked like Ryan Tannehill of 2019. That's great news for the Titans.
Let's go opposite end of the spectrum, and that's the Vikings at 0-2, and the complete mess that their defense is and how bad Kirk Cousins has looked without Stephon Diggs.
I think they're the biggest disappointment in football so far this year. They can't get anything right. The young defense looks lost, and the offense, it doesn't seem like Kirk Cousins trusts anyone outside of Adam Thielen, and it's a perfect storm. It's a mess right there.
And finally, take you to task on your ranking of the Jags. They ought to be at least 3 to 4 spots higher based on A, their defense can get after it, and B, Gardner Minshew's special. I mean, I know they're supposedly working their way toward Trevor Lawrence, but man, that dude is special.
If you're a Jaguars fan, you are over the moon about the way Minshew has played so far. But moving up 4 spots off a loss, money, that is showing respect. I don't care what you say.
Okay, well, you don't have to care what I say. It's my opinion. Your power rankings are your power rankings. I'm here to refute that you have the Jaguars at number 25. All right, disgusting, Dan. Yeah, that's what I think of your ranking of the Jaguars. Give Minshew Mania some respect. One more segment. Sneak in your shots at the star of our show, the Zooser, constructive criticism. And here's a hint. The Raiders were 19 last week behind 5 teams that were 0-1, and they're just 15 this week. All right, back here on Power Rankings presented by Energizer. Still going. It's constructive criticism. You weigh in. Our man, the Zeuser, reacts to your complaints. You ready, Dan?
Bring it.
Here we go. Let's start. Dan Hanzus is too cool to respond, but I would love an explanation on the Steelers being in the top 5 because it is impossible to have an explanation. Oh, look, it's Raven Wizard. So this is a Baltimore fan, I guess, being upset that you have the Steelers too high?
It's not good enough, Steven, that I put you ahead of the defending Super Bowl champions. Your favorite team is number 1 on the power rankings. You need to come after the Steelers. That's because you're nervous and you're worried because you think the Steelers could beat you, and I see through it.
You know what? I like that, Dan. I can get behind that. All right, let's go to my favorite group of fans. Dan Hanzus and his trash take on the Raiders. What a surprise. Hashtag Raider Nation, eh?
That's weak sauce because I've defended Derek Carr on my podcast for years. I think the Raiders are on the right track. Calm down. We're not there yet, the top 10, but we're on our way potentially.
Derek Carr, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, they can't be stopped, let alone slowed, and they're 2-0 and they're at 15. Trash take. All right, here we go. This is the tweet of the day from Cole.
Yeah.
Jets at 32 seems too high.
Everybody have your jokes. Everybody get your yucks in while you can in 2020 because Eric Bieniemy's coming to town next year, and it's all going to change. That's the only thing I got there.
Could you broker an exchange maybe by week 4 or whenever their bye is? Just see if Bieniemy can join you at that point. You know what would be good, actually? Cole makes a great point, Dan. I think if I were you, I would leave 32 blank and just not even put the Jets in there. Confrontational week 3 of Power Rankings. We love strife and discord. Thanks to Cynthia Freeland, Steve Weich. For the Zeuser, Matt Money Smith here saying thanks for watching.